Welcome, color lovers, color stream lovers, rather. What I wanted to tell you like, is something interesting. Just before the stream, I looked at our registration statistics, and today we have people from almost 20 countries with us. So we are truly, truly international crowd. Yes, we are. We are. We're. I mean, our colorist group was always international, but I just love to see sometimes those numbers. I also want to welcome anybody who's here for the first time. Welcome, welcome. We're very happy to see you here. You can say hi in the chat too, and introduce yourself to the group if you're here for the first time. Say hi. We are really really excited for you to be here. We meet every Friday like this and talk about things. And today we're going to cover a really important subject, really important that kind of never really ends. Subject that always can something that always gets improved. And this is the subject of basically node tree. Okay. What I'm going to be talking to you about, but before I start with the node tree, I just really wanted to talk to you about something that happened last week in our town. It was probably one of the most important dates in the calendar of Los Angeles. And you're guessing I'm talking about the Academy Awards, the Oscars. And this year's Oscars was promising already even before the Oscars. It is going to be an interesting one, simply based on nominations. There was like so many new names. And it's something that we've seen been happening for maybe last few years. We've seen that there is a kind of almost like a change of guard with the Oscar ceremonies. We see a lot of new people, new faces, new talent coming up. And that's always wonderful. It's always wonderful to see that this industry is striving, that there is a opportunity for new people to show off their skills, and they're just really able to impress the members. I love that. But this year was an interesting one, really really interesting one, something that hasn't ever happened in the history of the Oscars. And in the nomination for the best picture, there were several movies, and there was one movie in particular that many people didn't even know this. It wasn't necessarily advertised as a fact. Nobody really tried to put it at the forefront. But there was one movie that was shot on a budget of around $5 million. They say it was 6, but probably like they're trying to inflate this a little bit. But yeah, it was a $5 million. For Hollywood, this is super low budget. Right? So, it's crazy. You see this independent movie for 5 million nominated for the best picture. And you're guessing I'm talking about Sean Baker's Anora, right? And definitely Anora didn't look like a $5 million movie. It looked like more like a $50 million movie. And it was actually, considering that Sean Baker just a few years ago made a movie on an iPhone. It's Tangerine I'm talking about. And, it's amazing. He works always with Drew Daniel, cinematographer, and them two seem to have this incredible creative relationship that they're really able to create incredible things. And guess what? The Oscar for the best picture went to an independent film. And Sean Baker basically won this kind of indie director, won an Oscar for best picture. But not just that, Anora won 5 Academy Awards. 5. They basically cleaned up, right? They completely cleaned up. Sean Baker got another award for directing and for editing. I love that. And basically, the Mickey Madison got Oscar for the best actress as well, and also they got the award for a best screenplay. I mean, it is just like, what more is there to win? So I was just calculating. This is something like $1.2 million per Oscar. This is the probably most efficient Oscar-winning film in the history of the Oscars ever. And it's amazing. I think it's a celebration to the art of film that, it's actually possible today to be creative and to still make wonderful, amazing movies and still able to win awards. And this is really what we need as an industry. We need that promise that the barriers are opening, that people actually, can actually achieve something like that. It's possible. I love that. So yeah, it was really interesting one. Now I want to ask you something else before we begin. Who here in the audience likes surprises? Come on, let me know. Anybody here likes surprises? Anybody is into surprises? Yeah,
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah.
I
Very
think
good.
everyone does.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a little surprise for you. So how would it be if I was to tell you that today you're going to learn a note tree that Anora was graded on? And not just that, how about if I tell you that the colorist who has graded Anora is going to show you his note tree and is going to tell you exactly how he graded the movie? How did this sound to you guys? Come on.
Awesome.
Show me some love.
Bravo. Yes.
Yes, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really proud to present Mr. Alastor Arnold from FotoKem, who's here with us tonight to make a history one more time. And instead of hiding his secrets, how he grades, he's going to open his treasure chest to you and he's going to show you his note tree. He's going to teach you how exactly he's doing it. You're going to be able to ask him questions as well. And most importantly, at the end of the stream, I'm going to send you his DRX file and you're going to be able to start doing it and using it yourself. So without further ado, please welcome Mr. Alastor Arnold. Woo!
Hey, everybody. Dado, my biggest fan.
Yeah. As I said, I always knew Alastor is an amazing talent. I predicted a few years ago that this is going to happen. Actually, it's recorded. You can go and listen to my interview with him from a few years ago where I said exactly that. So I love to see this. And Alastor is today, one of the busiest colorists in Hollywood. And again, it's a sign of the generational change. This is interesting. We are going through a change, not just in a directorship, but also in a color gradingship. So, Alastor, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you for making history. Thank you for changing the way how this industry operates, and for being so open with the way how you work and sharing it with everybody. This is absolutely fantastic. But before we start, I just really wanted to ask you a couple of things. Tell us a little bit about Anora. How was it shot, and how did it come about? How come you ended up working with Sean and Drew, and how did it all happen?
Well, we were introduced originally, actually, through, I don't know if it was a cold call exactly, but Sean reached out to FotoKem because he was interested in remastering two of his very early films, his second and his third, but he kind of considers one of them kind of his first real feature, which was Takeout. And he shot the film on mini DV, and he was very interested in kind of making it, look like film. And he reached out to FotoKem because he was interested in our shift process. At the time, it wasn't even called that. It was actually one of the first projects that I started exploring the scan bag process creatively. And basically, they kind of just was like, Al's the right guy for this project. He works with a lot of indie filmmakers and he's very familiar with this process. And I was doing a lot of, so a lot of the initial color science with the process. And so basically we were introduced on that. And we remastered Takeout using a scan back process to print for Criterion. And right after that, he was so happy with the results. We jumped right into the film he made right after that, which was shot on HDV, which was Prince of Broadway. Yeah, which was Prince of Broadway. Actually, it was a pretty big difference, actually. But yeah, so we basically remastered these two films for Criterion using a print scan back. And and we just really hit it off, in addition to Sean, but his producers as well. And yeah, it was just a really good creative fit. We got along very well, and he was super happy with the results.
Brilliant.
And yeah, and so basically,
tell us about Anora. I suppose Anora was not shot on a mini DV anymore, right?
No. So short. After that, he did. It was COVID. He did Red Rocket, which I worked on as well. He brought me on for that. And then this was the follow-up to Red Rocket, which was Anora. So yeah, so Anora was shot on 16 millimeter anamorphic film with a very special lens that was like a one-off anamorphic Super 16 lens that Davinci made. And then after
Wow.
that, yeah, it was Anora, which he shot, 35 millimeter anamorphic. Yeah.
So now the real camera, real budget, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. 35 millimeter anamorphic. And
Yeah.
and how, tell us a little bit, like, did you do any look dev with them first, and how did it all work? Like,
Yes.
how did it all happen?
Yeah, yeah, we did a significant amount of look development. So the idea was basically, when you're shooting a film on film, there's a lot that can be done in terms of creating the look that's actually driven by the photography, much more so than digital capture.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we all know, digital capture basically now is just whatever the sensor captures, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's basically what raw recording is. There's nothing really baked in other than just what the light was that hit
Mm-hmm.
the sensor, and then we manipulate it from there. And then obviously, yes, lighting and lensing does have an effect, but in film, there's way more things that play a part in the look of the film. The film stock itself will definitely impart a lot of character. How it's shot in terms of exposure,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's lab process in addition to lensing and production design and lighting.
Mm-hmm.
So Drew, when we started working together, he shot a lot of tests. He shot basically different sets of lenses, different exposures. He actually Sean brought in Mikey Madison to do the testing. They
Oh,
shot
wow.
outside. They shot actually during a cloudy, rainy day, which was very apropos. And it was, so it kind of all worked out that the test material that he shot was like very, very appropriate for what the film was going to be, which was this kind of moody, kind of dark, flat New York winter gray, kind of stark look. And so so Drew and I kind of arrived at the look together. It was very collaborative, much more so in a way than regular digital capture, in a way, in that he decided through all these tests, where we landed was he was very happy with the film that was very underexposed, but then
Ah,
pushed. I know we talk about push pull. I always forget which one it is. I think he pushed it. But anyway, so there was this combination of underexposure and then lab process that let the image stay flat, but brought out a lot of grain.
mm,
So yeah, so we
nice.
we did we did look dev, and then they jumped into photography. And Sean did reach out a number of times during the shooting just to kind of ask me some questions about some footage they shot, whether they needed to reshoot anything or if I could fix things, or some of
Mm-hmm.
the helicopter work was, he wanted to kind of make it a little more stable, but not so stable that it felt like a drone shot, that it
Mm-hmm.
stayed true to this kind of 70s aesthetic. So there was a significant collaboration building the look, and
There.
ultimately, it's Drew's work.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I have a question from Jason who says, how much time did you spend on look dev? How long does it take?
I honestly couldn't say. The thing about look development for me is I don't generally like my look development to be booked like in a slot. I
Yes.
find that that's not the best way to approach things personally. I honestly do most of my look development at home in my home studio.
Uh-huh.
And I like to do it, very organically, and kind of like send stills back and forth, or whatever it is, until we find that we're reaching something together that everybody's very happy with. So I would say it was probably at least a couple of days. I take a lot of time, and that we like to like kind of look at things together and discuss things, and see
Yeah.
how things are feeling. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No,
and
no pressure
yeah,
when this is the creative part. You
yeah.
can't make a pressure during that part. I agree.
No, no, I think it's the
Yeah.
most important part of what I do, honestly, when I'm working
Exactly.
on a film. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Very
Yeah.
good. Al, so now everybody's probably dying to see. So let's show us. How did you grade the movie? Do you mind sharing your desktop? And let's dive into the note tree. I think, like I'm also curious myself. I'm really, really excited to hear and to see how everything worked and so on. So let's go. Oh my God, it's a big note tree.
Can you can see the screen okay, right? I'm assuming I see a green line around it, so I'm assuming you
Yeah.
can see it okay.
Yeah, we're
Um,
here.
Okay, so usually when I talk about a node tree, I kind of like to explain, and I know that at this point there's a general public knowledge about the benefits of a fixed node tree, and why they're a very useful and important way of managing your color. And the original, actually, one of the original reasons early in Resolve that I found having a really well structured node tree was important was just rippling, right? And rippling is basically grouping a bunch of shots. This was actually before they added groups, I believe. It was the ability to quickly audition a change to a group of shots. And that's kind of one of the more simple reasons for having a fixed node tree, which I'll get into my structure, my node tree on that too. The other thing for me, just as a senior colorist, is that usually I'm working with a team of people, and a lot of the time my online editor, assist, color assist, secondary supporting colorists. If you have structure, it's easy to communicate. And it's also easy to know that, like, oh, this is where I'll like certain things to happen. So if I'm not able to do the work, if I'm working with other people, they're going to say, okay, this is usually where Al's going to want this work done or that work or this fix. So it's easier to collaborate when you have a fixed node tree. And sometimes, honestly, it's an efficiency thing. If you have structure, you're going to be a more efficient colorist, which makes you a faster colorist. And also just muscle memory. I find that, like, if you're working with a similar structure all the time, you're just going to know and work faster. Your muscle memory is going to know where you want things to be, and so there's that as well. So yeah, I guess this is my node tree. I'll make it a little bigger, just so everybody can see things a little more clear. So the first thing you'll notice is it's very big. I have a reputation at work for having the most complicated node tree. But even though it's complicated, I always say I usually don't use that many nodes. I actually have a project that I graded recently. I can't show you Anora specifically, but I have a short film that I worked with on a friend that I can kind of show you actually how much work I actually use in each node when I'm grading. But the idea is that this node tree is structured, and I've modified this over the years. I haven't really made many changes to it lately. It's kind of works well enough for me now. I'm not finding that I have to do too much to it, although I will modify it slightly for projects. And also, I just want to start by saying I don't think that this is the only way to structure a node tree. This is what works for me and the way I like to work. But I don't think that this is the definitive node tree. I think that ultimately people should structure a tree to the way they like to work and what's going to make them the best colorists and the most efficient colorists. So just to be clear, I don't want anybody to think that I think this is the best way. It's simply the best way for me that I've discovered right now. And like Dado said, I'm happy to share it. I'm very open source about things. I don't think a node tree is going to make anybody a better colorist necessarily. It might make them a more efficient colorist. So I'm always happy to share things like this. It's not a big deal. So okay. Anything, Dado, before I jump in here?
No, and I just love this attitude. I love
Yeah.
this attitude. You're such. You're not afraid. I love this. This is wonderful, Al. This is something I've been campaigning for years. Going like, yeah. I mean, as an industry, we can only grow together better if we kind of do a little bit more of this stuff. And I'm so happy
Yeah.
that you have such an approach. And you're right.
Yeah.
This is a node tree. You can learn a lot from it. You can understand, maybe be more efficient, and so on. And you know what? I can't wait to see what you're doing, because I can already see that you've done something quite different. So please take us through it. Please, let's go. I'm dying now.
No, let's talk about something else first. Well, the first thing I have to say about my node tree is that I always make sure to turn off thumbnails. I find it's just like I don't need a big square of the node to see the key or anything. I think this is more efficient for me, and I can fit more nodes on the screen this way. So I turn off the show thumbnails. And
Yeah.
honestly, like, you guys are happy to do whatever. Like I said, I'm happy to share this, but my tree is designed to just have as many nodes on the screen as I can efficiently. Okay, so one of the things about my node tree that may be a little different is that I have a lot of combinations of serials and parallels. But the idea is basically that the middle is the starting point, not the beginning. So
Mm.
so I don't tend to work in a actually serial way, so to speak. I tend to like to do my work almost in a non-linear fashion in terms of the color grading. So as you'll see, my center node here, node run. Also, by the way, this node tree, you'll need to make sure in your preferences that you have the preserved node numbers, I believe it is. If you go under here, under color, there's you always want to make sure that you have preserved node numbers on when adding nodes. Otherwise, this won't. And also, I have to apologize. I've just noodled this node tree a lot. So the numbers aren't in any specific order, actually, believe it or not. I just kind of noodled them around, and I kind of like know what the numbers are. But this could be restructured for sure and have them in a more consistent.
And what happens? What happens if you don't have preserved node numbers?
Then you're going to see that it's more of an actual, what is the word I want to use? That the node numbers will actually go in the order of operation. So the first node, that my node tree here is 57. But that, I believe, if I just change that setting, I mean, we can actually see. I
please
believe.
don't.
No. Maybe we'll crash again.
No, don't want it. Yeah. Okay, understand.
Yeah. So basically, node 1 is my base grade. And also, if you're using color management, I always like to use color management nodally. I tend to want to manage the color myself. I don't want the software to do it for me. So if you're using color management, I put my IDT in this first column. So usually what I like to do when I'm explaining my node tree to other colorists is I like to break it down into multiple tiers or sections, right? And as you'll notice the structure, it's actually, there's columns of different nodes, right? And you can see it from left to right. And it is, and even though the middle is kind of where I do start most of my work when I'm grading, the node tree is segmented in sections that are kind of reserved for certain types of things. And this gets back to what I was talking about when I'm working with other people. Some of this is also I think personally, it's the order of operations for most things that I like. So usually where I start is this first row of nodes here that I'm showing you. Mm-hmm. And these are reserved for me for technical fix work, comp work, fix, IDT, and possibly if you need to pre-grade something with a very simple offset grade to normalize something, if it's really out of whack, you might do it there as well. So one of the things you'll notice is I have an IDT node here. So generally, if I were going to be doing, let's just say hypothetically, an ACES project here, this is where I would put my IDT. And this being log C4, and let's just say we're going to go to ACES. Where are you, ACES CCT? That's where I would put my IDT. And there's a reason for this. There's a reason why I leave this node here for my IDT.
And Alastor, and so tell me, so what technical kind of things you would put at the front, like something like denoise?
Yes. So one of the things too on a bigger studio level movie too is I might have a CDL. So some of that initial balance work I'll usually put that on node 1, 2, 3, or 4. A lot of the time that's when I'm working with a team, my CDLs will end up in this first column. Right. So generally, a good example, like you said, would be noise reduction. I generally believe that noise reducing the source image is the best option most of the time. I don't think, again, I will always speak in generalities. I think that there's exceptions to any rule, and sometimes you do need to noise reduce after you're really stretching an image or something like that. But generally, I find that I want to do my noise reduction as the first thing in the signal chain, or one of the first things. So
and what's that one says free one? What is that node?
Oh, well, the free nodes are a whole. I mean, this is why my node tree takes a while to explain. If you actually notice, there's a free node here, there's a free node here, and there's a free node here, and those are all compound nodes. And I'll get a little deeper into why those are there and what they're for. But this free node here generally would be for technical fixes. I guess I can jump into what the free nodes. Free nodes for me are playpens, right? And the thing about color, and the reason I've come up with this node tree specifically with these compound nodes is that you're always going to get asked to do something, or you're going to need to do something that a fixed node tree is not going to be the right option sometimes. As well designed as a node tree is, you're going to hit a wall sometimes if you're in it. So even though it's a structure, sometimes you don't want structure. So I have these free nodes in my node tree to do whatever I want. These are just basically, if I need to do some complicated node mix, parallel, serial, node key mixer operation, whatever it is. Those are playpens. Those are sandboxes to do
Okay,
whatever you need to do.
so let me see. So you could go in and change and make a completely different compound, add layers, add nodes, and
Yeah,
then when you collapse it again, it just still shows as a single compound node.
exactly.
Ah.
So basically what those free nodes they're free. I mean, that's the thing with a node tree, right? Like a node tree is never going to get you everywhere all at once. It's impossible. Like it's going to be right most of the time. But when you're work, especially like commercial work, if you have to do really complicated mixings of keys and mats and you sometimes you need to do very complicated orders of operations to execute things, or even comp. A lot of the time you're doing comp in a node tree now. What if you're doing a sky replacement? What if you have to track in an object? What if you're doing an object replaceable? Like you don't know, right? So those free nodes are reserved to do whatever you need to do.
I hear you.
Like whatever. It's like anything goes in those. I always reserve those. Now, when I'm working with a team, I generally say, if you use a free node, like if I wanted to go in here, and this is like going to be a stupid example, but let's just say that I'm doing some, let's just say, and some whatever this is, right? Let's say that I'm doing something here, and this is, by the way, just a dummy correction. Let's just say that I'm doing a key mixer, and I want to pipe these keys together here, right? And let's just say that we're doing this, and again, I'm just doing this purely for stupidity's purpose. But let's say this is my correction, right? When I step out of it, I like to change the name, right?
I can recognize this grade from Anora. No, I'm joking.
Right. So a good habit is, if you use the free node, right? A good best practice is to label it.
Great. So you can kind of quickly just go extend it, make lots of things, and then you collapse it, and it's like a there. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And those, again, there's in the first order of operations, this section, like I said, this would generally where I would be working on the camera source, right? Like the idea is that at that point you are working on the native source image. You're going to need to do fixes. So another example is a lot of cameras, like, the Lexus, you get the little dots. Sometimes you need to do dust busting or something like that. Any seriously manipulative thing, but you want to work on the camera source, right? Like the technical area. This is generally where I reserve this area for. And also, like I said, if you have to pre-balance something that's, you don't want to do it after the IDT, sometimes I'll do it there too. It's, so I'm, there's no, even though there are rules, they're usually there to break. So I always say that do what you need to do to get it done. And this is generally what I do. So after this section of notes here, I always have this one
app, because it's really annoying me now. Like those two circles. Can you turn it?
Oh,
yeah. Thank you.
Colorist annoyance.
I know it just looked like.
Okay. So after the IDT, a lot of the time, sometimes here on this node 23, I will do some texture. Depending on what I'm doing, I might add halation in there. I might add grain if I want to pre-grain an image. So a lot of the time here, and you could label this, this might be where I do texture. And that is if I want to pre-texture an image, not post-texture an image. But a lot of the times I will
give us a little bit, like just for the context, like give us a little bit understanding what is pre-texture, what's post-texture.
Okay, so let's just, for order of operations, I generally also do an ODT at the timeline level. So if I'm going to go here, we're going to go from ASIS CCT. Where are you? I wish these were in alphabetical order, but they never are. And I'm always, you think I've done this a million times. Oh, God dang it. I'm also not used to this mouse. Okay, and let's just go to Rec 709. Okay, so
yeah.
So there you go. So I also always put the ODT at the timeline level. And that's just because generally for studio level deliverables, you have to give a scene refer to export at the end of the day. And then if I want to do that, all I'm going to do is just change this to no output transform, would be for an ASIS scene linear, export, or you could go to log C3, you could go to flavor of log, CG, whatever you want. But the idea is basically this here should almost always, in my opinion, be at the end of the signal chain. Okay, so pre-texture, what's that mean? Well, we go in here, let's just say, and I'm not a huge fan of this tool, but halation, right?
Mhm.
I usually actually use some other tools for halation, but if I want to manipulate halation, I am generally doing it very targeted. I don't think a one size fits all works with halation. I tend to like to paint with halation. So generally, halation might go here. You could do grain too, or you could use the film look creator. You can use whatever you want, whatever plugin you want to do the things you want to do. If you're trying to recreate film capture, a lot of the time the image would be grained on the source, right? So you can go in there and you can put some film grain in there if you wanted. You can even add a node. Maybe you want to do grain and halation, right? So this tree is also designed to work. Whoop, where's halation? Here, right? So let's just say the reason I found that columns work is that if I want to add nodes, I can work down.
Ah, I see. I
So,
see.
and
I
you're going to
see.
see why this makes sense when I get deeper. And I use it like I warned Dado, explaining this node tree takes about an hour. But the idea is if I want to add more nodes, I just work down. I can just stick another node in there. Maybe I want to build a very complicated texture treatment. Maybe I know on Dado's plugin, he likes to put all of his order of operations in parallel. You could put them in a compound node in here, right? You could use that free node to build your texture map with Dado's plugin. The idea is it does actually provide a level of flexibility. You just work down. And so that's a good example of where I would put sometimes a pre-texture if that's the goal creatively.
Love it, love it. And
Okay.
then where would be the post texture when we're already on a texture?
Well, if you're going to keep it on the node tree, it would be on the tail end. And the tail end is actually, which is a whole other discussion. That's where generally I put the look and any post texture treatments.
Well, we'll come to it. Okay, we'll come.
Yeah, no, it's. I warned you. I warned you.
All right. Then you're going. So after texture, you're going into parallel. I can see, right?
Yeah, right here. So you can see this series of nodes, which is actually this series of nodes in conjunction with these ones here. Mm-hmm. These nodes here on the top are pre-built grads, and I know I've talked to Dado about this before, but I like to leave a series of grads almost treated as in-camera grads. I before even my base grade, I tend to work on the raw source to do a lot of initial manipulation before the grade. So one thing I always leave in here, and if you look, I have a top here, a top grad, a bottom grad, a left grad, and a right grad, just because it's very common. So it's an efficiency thing, and you can move those. You don't have. I mean, you can angle it, do whatever you want. Like just when you're grading, if you're like, I need to do this darker over here, that's what that's for. So these are predefined spatial manipulators, in addition to spot. And spot is always, I always have a spot. It's one of the most common things a colorist is going to be asked to do is like make this brighter, right? So I've always got a pre-baked spot window, I call it. It's just a little spotlight, and I'll just turn that off so Dada doesn't want to punch me. These are kind of some predefined spatial manipulators that I always have in the pre-grade, and after that, and there's these two I'll get after that too. But if you notice below spot, generally I like to key the source image, and this is not a rule. But if you're dealing with reasonably well shot material, you can generally isolate anything you want. So as an example, let's just say I wanted to do a skin manipulation, right? Let's just do a really generic.
So you're in 3D Keyer, huh?
Yeah. And I always post blur my 3D Keyer all the way, most of the time. And let's just say I want to cool the skin tones down, right?
And what was this? That number 2 was post filter. I see. That's
yeah. I think post filtering is one of the best filtering tools they've added in the Keyer ever. It really makes very clean keys or rough keys very clean. But
actually, you know what? I never used that post filter. Thank you so much. This is like a thank you.
It's a beautiful tool. It's a beautiful tool. And then let's just see if we highlight it. You can go in there and clean your key up a bit, whatever it is. And then you can garbage it too if you want, So generally, I find that's how I do most of my manipulations is a combination of that, and I can do whatever I want most of the time. I find it's a very quick way to get a really clean isolation. And if you're not pushing things too far, it's very elegant.
And are you going to do anything there, or you're just going to isolate? You just create a matte, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. They're just So basically, this area, and this is again my preference most of the time. Not that I don't key after my grade. It's very common to need to do that as well. But the reason I like to do that is that, oops, I'm on a Mac, not Linux. Sorry, my muscle memory is always a little backwards with Linux and Mac. One thing that you'll find, right, is that the reason I like to have my keys before my base grade is that the key won't break. In other words, say I wanted to go for a cool look. What?
No, somebody, that happens to us when you have lots of people press unmute, and then that's what happens. So sorry, you carry on.
Okay, so the reason I like to build my keys before my primary grade is if I ever need to make big adjustments to the picture, the key doesn't change, the key doesn't break, right? So one thing is like, if I know that I've isolated the skin here, if I graded just hypothetically over here, the key will break, right? Like if I cool this down, probably, let's do something here, and I go here, my key's broken now.
Correct.
Right. So the reason I like to reserve this area for generally keys is that whatever I do in my actual grading, I'm not breaking my keys. They're almost like mattes that you got from a visual effects shop. And this is my logic, and it works most of the time. And
what is dynamic and halo?
An hour in now. Real quick, before I tell you what those two things are, the reason also is you can add more. See this? If you just keep adding parallels, it stays clean. I can keep adding more correctors as I need, right? So again, the structure is structured for a reason. It's really easy to add additional correctors without it messing up the tree. Excellent. And so it's just very clean. See that? I just keep my column keeps going down. So that's why I like this tree for that reason.
Excellent.
There's a reason to the madness, right? Okay, so keys here. Now, yes, so there's a DYN and an HL. DYN is for dynamics. And again, my logic is generally if I want to make an adjustment, I like to think of color as like, would this have been better in camera, or was it me as a colorist doing it? And I don't actually have, I could show you maybe on this other project, but the idea would be that if I generally do a dynamic, I like to do it on the source image.
And what's a dynamic? What do you consider as dynamic? Offset?
Okay, sure. Let's go to, I have another, I don't have it open here. I got permission to use another project that I worked on recently. I'm going to just load it up just so that
I can share. Yeah, that is
it's just
here. Oh my God.
Okay. But as an example, if you look at my node tree, how many nodes am I actually using to do the color? 1, 2, 3. I have a vignette here, which we haven't talked about. But even though I have all of these nodes, and you can see I don't have the IDT node because this project I wasn't using an IDT. So sometimes I'll rejigger the node tree a little bit based on the project. But just because all these nodes are here doesn't mean you should use them. Generally, you should only be using a couple nodes to get your grade, in my opinion. Unless it's something crazy complicated. But what's a dynamic? And let's see if I even have one on here. I might. Let's just see. I don't know if I've used it for anything. Maybe not. I'm just popping around.
This looks shot on Venice too.
No, it was shot on 16 millimeter bullets. Okay, so what's the dynamic?
Clean,
No, this is a fun short. So what's a dynamic? Generally, a dynamic is when you make a change over time, right? And my general approach to dynamics is most of the time I like to do them as keyframed opacity ramps. I don't like to put on keyframe and make 2 corrections on 2 sides. I generally like to make 1 correction and make it as an opacity ramp.
That's a great thing. Oh my God, you're right.
But let's just say that we want to start the shot cool, right? And then go normal, right? So if I bypass that, let's just say that this is cool now, right? So how would I do that? What I'll do is I'll go to node 4. If I change this to color, it'll highlight the node, right? And here's node 4. I'll put on keyframing here. I'll go in here and let's say that I'll do it at 0 at the start of the shot and then 100% at the end. See that? So it's starting normal and then it ends cool. And you can even, and then usually what I do is turn off keyframing. You can adjust the change, right? Like say I didn't go cool enough. I want to go really cool, right? See, now I can adjust it and my keyframing stays the same. And that's why I prefer to do dynamics that way. Is that I you can make a change. And then the beautiful thing is you can pipe that now into another node over here, and you can take the inverse of it. And now I can make the beginning of the shot warmer. Whoops, wrong node. Mac. I can go here and I can go warmer, right? Let's just say I go warmer and I'm going to go crazy here. Boom, right? Now I go from warm to cool. See that? So I can take this keyframe. Maybe I'll pipe it in over here. Maybe I want to make another change over here, right? Go ahead, Dado. I'm sorry.
I see. So wait. So because the key you keying the key output, then the same keying is able to affect multiple nodes. Brilliant. But you just have to invert the key input on the other node.
Here's the key down here. You can see the key changing, right?
Wow. Oh my God. Oh, this is fucking awesome, man. This is great. I'm going to write this one down as well. Oh my God. This is so cool, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Key the keyer.
Yeah. Maybe I'll pipe that key into a shape down here later, right? Yeah, you can put a shape in there. Yeah. You can motivate a correction in there too if you want.
Always key the key.
See that? Yeah. So you know, I always like to label my dynamics, and generally I like to do my dynamics this way. Generally.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So
let's go back. And before we continue, I just remembered something. You know, tell everyone about the Anora IDT.
There was no IDT. Well, I made my own IDT.
Exactly. Exactly. Which is you see, this is another really great example. You know, you don't have to just stick ADX10 thinking I have to have it, right? No, you don't. No. You know, you can build your IDT if it serves your look. It's up.
Or use a different one. Maybe you like the way a red IDT looks on Alexa.
I doubt that you know? I doubt that red's ever going to look in.
You never know. But I'm just saying, like you can put things in wrong containers to get interesting results, right? Like you can break things intentionally. Okay.
What about HL?
HL highlight. So one of the things I find I'm doing a lot of with keys is isolating highlights. I find that sometimes a keyed highlight is more efficient to manipulate than like using a highlight control on an HDR wheel or something like that. So usually what I'll do for that is an example. I will do a luminance key here, right? I'll turn off this clip here. So I'll build the luminance key that I like. Generally, I always post filter just because that's my jam.
How did you left hue and saturation untouched?
Yeah, it's just it's an L key. It's a luminance key, right? So then what I can do is now I can manipulate an area of the highlights. And if you look in here, right, I've isolated a shirt, let's just say. Now I can isolate that area, and that's what my highlight key is. So nice. And I can pipe it into other areas too. Like maybe I want to make it a little warmer later, and just in those highlights, I can pipe that in to another later. So I always, just because I'm always noodling highlights, I like to keep a key for highlights just reserved. That's me. But you
this is a good spot as well because it's going to stay consistent, right? It's before your base look.
Exactly.
Very nice.
Exactly. So yeah. So generally, I like to keep keys here, noodles. But basically, the idea is you're manipulating the camera source. And so whatever you do after that is the look or the trims or whatever. But yeah, this area here is the pre-noodle, right? And
now,
that's
what about this 52-24?
Right. Okay. So this is actually part of the middle area, which encompasses all of these nodes here. Basically, this section before and this section after the base grade. So this is where the meat of the grading happens generally for me. So as an example, whatever it is, like if I want to make the shot a little, whatever it is, whatever my base grade is. This generally here, my base grade, I like to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
I break that rule all the time. But for me, the base grade is where I'm doing my general balance, making shots work without overcomplicating. And basically, this area here, I find serial nodes are generally all I need. And this is brute force. Do whatever you want. Sometimes if I'm grading a scene, maybe I'll build a look on node 22 and ripple that across the scene. You could do a shared node here if you want it. Like, you can build it how you want, but this is the brute force grading in here. I'll do whatever I need to do to make shots work in this section. And usually, I don't know, it's about 10 nodes or something. It's generally enough for me. So it's kind of the play area. It's kind of where I do whatever I want to do when I'm grading. But that's the base grade plus the pre and post noodles. There's no rules here, really. Do whatever you want. No rules. Yeah, just it's a playpen. Just
And
do
then
whatever
you
you
go,
want.
and then you go into parallel again, right?
Yeah, yep. And then so this section here, this is a different section. This section here, this is where I tend to do a lot of different things too. As you'll notice, I always have a vignette ready. There's always a vignette, and I'll adjust that for whatever the raster of the project I'm working is. You're going to get asked to vignette things all the time. So this is where I have a predefined vignette.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do whatever you want with it, build whatever vignette. You can use a plugin for your vignette, whatever. But I find a simple ellipse is usually good. And then I have an outside. So if I want to make the inside brighter or whatever, I want warmer, cooler. So I have an inside and an outside pre-built. So this is a vignette. This is the inside, the reverse vignette. And so this is, again, just for me to just have a predefined vignette. Sometimes you might want a vignette on a whole scene. You can just build your vignette, ripple it.
You're right. You always need a vignette. And then you have another in and out as well. I can see that.
Just for whatever. If I want to build a shape and I need an inside outside, that's what this is for. Whatever it is, like, example, let's just say, hey, I want to like bring her up and then I want to bring this down. It's pre-built. It's just, or sometimes if I have a visual effect and I have a matte, I'll pipe it in there. So I have an inside and outside of, like, say I have a TV screen, I'll pipe it in there, and then I have the inside outside of the screen.
Perfect.
That's all.
And the other nodes in parallel, they will be also windows mainly, right?
Pardon me?
The other nodes on that parallel stack are also for windows.
Yes, exactly. Or sometimes, honestly, even in this here, I'm going to reset this because Dado's going to hate the way this looks.
Exactly. Right. Thank you so much.
You've got OCD, color OCD. So
I'm kind of talking to a guy who kind of graded the best picture right now. I don't want to see like any bad grades, Alastor. Sorry, man. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah. So generally here, if I want to do my dodging and burning, I'll do it here. But sometimes if someone's like, show me audition something, right? Like, what would this shot look like if I wanted it destat, right? I'll do it in here, and then I can always turn it on and off if I need to audition it. Like, if we're going to see how something works in a scene, and I'm like, let's do it. Let's try it. I'll put a color corrector in here too. Maybe it's part of my grading. It's a post base grade noodle zone, right?
Beautiful,
But it's not generally for ripples, which I'll get to that section next. But yeah, so this is basically post-grade playpen. I tend to avoid keys here if I don't have to, but I'll do keys there. I'll do shapes. It's mostly dodging and burning, but there's no rules. This is, again, it's just a post-grade playpen, generally dodging and burning, but you can do grades in there. And also, as you'll notice, you can keep going down. So you can keep building grades in a stack, and it just keeps going. So, there's a method to the madness why these nodes go here. And then we're 2/3 of the way. Okay. I have a little post noodle here too. So these two nodes, anything goes. You can do whatever you want. But sometimes I find after I do all my dodging and burning, I might need to do another little thing, and I'll do that in here. And then another free node or whatever. If you got to build some complicated thing after all of your grading and everything, and all of a sudden someone asks you to do something insane, the free zones are for insanity, whatever you have to do.
Oh, now just another practical. So if I have a Shola, then I would probably be putting it onto these 22, 21, these serial nodes post base, right?
1 second. Let me reset this just to get it back to where we were here. I'm going to just, sorry. I'm working on Linux at work a lot. And so sometimes I get my Mac keyboard and when Linux mixed up. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Wait. What was the question, Dado? I'm sorry.
Sholet. So I have a scene referred Sholet, scene to scene.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to skip over this area then. This is where I build my looks. And as an example, let's just say hypothetically, and I'm going to again do something here. Let's just say, I'm going to, what's the best way to example this here? I'm going to add this into a group. We'll just call it look one. Okay. All right. So let's just say now, let's go to that other project because this is going to make a little more sense if we look at it, something that I've actually graded here. Let's just get rid of this. Okay. So on this project, I actually built some stuff like here's my showlet. Okay. I put it in a group. But let's just say for shits and giggles, let's get rid of this. Oh, the media. I think this little SSD is a problem. I've got this little thing here and it's been wigging out. And I think that
that's probably why it crashed first time around.
I think that's why it crashed. Yeah, I think that's why it crashed.
Don't crash on me again, Val, please.
Oh my God, I know. I think that's what it was.
I'm gonna go to Amazon now and order a new SSD.
It woke up. I think there's a problem with that. It's either that or the Thunderbolt port. Let's do this. Where's that? Oh, I'm on group.
Update all thumbnails.
There you go. I was looking for it, but I was on the group level. Okay, so let's just say hypothetically, and again, don't consider this actual good work, but let's just say that I build a look. Let's do some contrast, whatever. Okay, some contrast. Maybe we're going to warm it up a bit. Maybe let's just say hypothetically, we'll use the film look creator, whatever. Let's do that in here and put that on there. Boom. Okay, let's say this is now the new look of the film. Okay, just hypothetically, right? Boom. And like, say you're doing, and like sometimes if I'm doing I'll build multiple versions of different looks, but let's just say they're like approved, right? Like that's the look of the movie, right? Let's say I grab a still now. Actually, let's put this in the power grade. Okay. And then let's go back to the node tree. Okay. So here's my look, right? I deconcat my look in my node tree most of the time. So I'll pop these in here. Okay. Boom. Okay. And then I would start that as my tree or ripple that to the whole project at that point. This is now my look.
Ripple more than one node at a time?
Yeah. Oh, no, you have to select them individually. But generally, let's just say if I was working on a film, this would already be predefined. I wouldn't be generally building a look on a whole built out timeline. It would have already been done.
Yes.
So again, this look.
Disable 45 for me, please. 45.
Just like kill that shit. But whatever it is.
Why is there a double LUT? What's double LUT?
What happened here? I think because I just warmed it up a little bit. But I'm just flying by the seat of my pants.
That's it.
It doesn't really matter.
Oh yeah,
the idea is let's just say whatever. Let's just undo because I think that was built on a different color space. Let's just say here's my look, right? Whatever it is. Okay. My attitude with looks is that they can work 90% of the time, 99%, but every once in a while you're going to have something that you don't need a certain part of it. As an example, let's just say, this noodle in this shot isn't working, or I want to make a change to it. It gives you flexibility when you deconcatenate your looks and you want to make adjustments. So the idea is a lot of the time, just think of this last section here as your LMT area.
Love it.
So for consistency in color, I like to keep my look as the last thing in the image pipeline, right? Because generally you don't want to be messing around with the show look, right? That's what defines the feel of a movie. So keep that at the tail end. And generally I don't touch anything here once I do it. Maybe I want some grain at the end of the movie. I could do it here, as an example, maybe I don't want the same grain on every shot.
Yeah. It is true.
It's flexibility, right? If you put it in a group or you put it on a timeline level, you can't manipulate things. And so
You're right.
So for me, the idea is always I want options. Even again, it's like this node tree. If you look at my work on this short I did, right? Like just if you actually look at the meat of what I did, let's go back here, right? If you go through these shots, look, one node, a vignette, one node, I'm not doing a lot here. Look, I did a spot here. I did a spot. There just because all of this stuff is here, you're not expected to use it. And in fact, if you're using this many nodes to do your work, you're probably doing something wrong. I'm a simplist. I'm actually a simplist. Like if you look at, this has this weird look I put on it. But if you look through all of my shots, like what the 3 nodes here, 2 nodes, everything has a vignette on it, which also I don't think you need to do.
Yeah, but okay, you have a material there that has a look in a material,
exactly, right? Yeah. But
I like it. I like it. Now can I do a guessing? Can I do guess?
Yes,
16, 17, 18, 37, 38.
This area.
That's for the director, review, cinematographer.
Those are ripple nodes.
Ripple nodes.
Those are only ripples. If I work with anyone and they do anything other than a ripple in this area, I get mad at them. This is only for ripples. So if we go back to the live project again, okay, and let's just get rid of this horrible, atrocious thing I did, whatever the hell that is. I don't even know. Let's just put some contrast on it just so we have something to look at. Okay, so here's our movie, right? It's all graded, whatever it is. And let's just say the director's like, okay, so we look here, there's a day exterior scene, right? She's in this park here. And let's say this scene here, before she goes in the doctor's office, the director's like, let's see what this scene looks like a lot warmer. All right. Okay, so you noodle a shot, you're like, yeah, let's try this warmer version of the shot, right? Select these nodes, ripple, done. Right. And it's now you can do a shared node here too if you wanted. I don't like shared nodes. I hate shared nodes too. They used to be very buggy. But if you want,
I have a post-traumatic stress disorder from shared nodes,
yeah, they're problematic. Yeah.
They can be problematic because it's like when it's late and you're tired, you make some changes.
Yeah. You can bone yourself, right? But this area is for that, right? And you might even label them. You could say warm, right? So this is an easy way to audition changes. And again, all of your work, your keys, your windows, your shaping, your dynamics, all happen before that, right?
Beautiful.
You can ripple this across a scene. And if you did a good job, it's consistent. You see that? It's consistently warmer across the whole scene now.
Correct.
Right? So, and you can, I like the warmer. Let's just add a little more contrast, right? Cool. Go in here, add a little contrast, right? You could even have this group to just filter it easier. You could ripple by group if you wanted, boom, ripple, boom. Now I've auditioned a higher contrast version of this scene. And I did it on the wrong node, but that could have been a separate node. I could have done I goofed up there. Let's make it great. But the idea is there, right? The idea is that this section ripples. You can label them if you're like, this is this is that. And again, it's designed to work down. You can add more ripples if you have to. And if you have to.
Yeah, and 56, 43, 42, these are your post noodle kind of, that when you need sometimes to do something. No, 56.
Oh, this thing. Yeah, this is whatever. You can add more nodes in there too. There's a free node. Yeah, I just find every once in a while there's some little noodle I need to do before I ripple, but after my bulk of my work.
Excellent. I'm pretty sure people are dying to ask some questions as well. Should we do that?
Yeah, that's basically it. Like that's the tree, and
that's a lot, dude. That's a lot. I have some takeaways which are just amazing, actually. But please, guys, just press an X if you wanna unmute your microphone and ask. So we have Kronos.
Because I didn't understand the structure of the node tree. Is all the node trees before the base one key correctors?
What key? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
No, they're not key correctors. No, they're not key. Is it, you mean key?
Here or here? 53 through
everything before base one.
Everything before base.
There's no rules. But generally those are things that I would treat as hypothetically if I were manipulating in camera.
Okay.
Right. That's the general idea, right? Like keys. I like to put keys before my base grade because I don't want them to break.
Yeah.
And, most high dynamic range, good log material, even if it's not super balanced, you're still going to be able to get an okay key out of almost anything if you have to.
Excellent. Yeah. What
All right.
effect and texture did you use to create the look of? Oh my God! Wait! This jumping. Wait, the look.
No, enough about the node tree.
Anora. Piotr is asking, what did you use any textures for the look of Anora?
No, that was shot on film, dude.
This is the kind of you don't have to do textures; they're built in.
Baked in. I mean, there were a very few sections that had that were underexposed where we had to do some noise reduction, and I did a little bit of regraining just so that it felt consistent. But that was not a lot. That was very, very, very rare. No, and Nora was shot on film. That's the beauty of film, is the texture you get with it.
Yeah, you're gonna get it in the camera. The question by Imon, it says, any tricks for managing the low end of the image when you have a strong look? Let's say when the darks are pushed strongly towards cyan.
No. No. I mean, there's no answer. There's no one size fits all, right? Like the way you grade, I've talked to Dado about this, is that the way you approach color, like your order of operations, the tools you use are going to give the image a feel, right? Whatever it is, whatever you do. And depending on how you're manipulating the image, which is always what we're doing, we're just manipulating things, you're going to have a different solve, right? Like if you're doing calculus and I'm doing algebra, it's a different problem, right? So your problem with your low end is your problem.
Would you ever do anything like a similar what you did with the highlight there? You would never qualify the luminance, qualify the shadows, isn't it? That's
yes, yeah, I do it all the time.
Okay,
sure,
you do that?
Why not? Yeah, okay. Maybe that's part of my look.
Exactly.
Like maybe I build my look, and maybe I isolate the shadows, desaturate them, add a tint that will keep a consistent shadow quality through a film. Luminance keys are incredibly powerful. I mean, Luma keys are like at least half of the keys I do most of the time.
They don't. You find them; they don't break for you, like on a kind of on a shadow, like when no.
It depends. The thing is that like anytime you regiment yourself to a way of working, you're regimenting your work. Right? Like if you're like, I only do this here, or this is how I do that, your shit's always going to look a certain way. And maybe that's your style. Maybe that's what you want, right? But I'm always reassessing how I approach problems and approach the work and the look. Like you're gonna end up with the same result if you're always doing the same thing.
And that's the worst thing.
That's the worst thing. No. So you know what? I don't do a lot of shadow keys, but sometimes I do shadow keys.
Yeah.
Because all of the tools, like if you think about most of the tools in terms of how you're manipulating the image, you're isolating an area, right? And those areas of isolation can happen differently, right? Like the HDR wheels in the corrector, those are areas of isolation. When you're doing, that's why they give you a slope and a fall off and like all of this stuff. Like when you're manipulating the highlight option on a color management on the HDR wheel, it's saying this area of the luminance or chrominance is what you're manipulating, right? It's no different than a key or the log control.
Exactly.
They're just areas you're manipulating, right? So if you're manipulating the shadows, you can manipulate your shadows dozens of different ways and get different results. Keying the shadows and doing a tweak on them is going to give you a different result than using the HDR shadow control or the regular shadow control. They're all different and they're going to feel different. And how you approach your grades are going to make your work feel very differently, constantly.
And then you have to try which one works for you the best for that particular.
Sure. Yeah, like maybe one movie I'll build a look where I key the shadows, and then maybe one I'll do an HDR with, and one I'll do this. It's like
that's actually
they're going to be different.
Yeah, when cinematographers do camera testing, and then colorists do color processing testing. You test your node tree before you start.
Yeah.
Alex had a question. Please, Alex, go ahead.
Oh, hi. Thank you, Alastor, for sharing this with us. It's a wonderful presentation. Thanks, Dado. I just wanted to ask, in regards to exporting CDL, especially on a big project, if I'm not mistaken, so Resolve we could only do with this node tree if the CDL was on the 58 node.
I am not exporting CDLs. That's from dailies. So it's going to be, I mean, maybe for visual effects, but if I'm building in CDL for visual effects, I am going to just use a single node. Like I'm not using this node tree for building CDLs. CDLs are just a means of transporting basic color information between different facilities, projects, or color correctors or VFX providers, right? CDLs are the most basic form of color you can do, the basic primary grades that translate between any system mathematically, right? So it's for me, CDLs, like as a colorist, I'm rarely generating CDLs except at the very earliest stages of pre-production where maybe they need them for visual effects, or maybe the DP wants a day look and a night look, and I'm going to give them a main showlet and a CDL to give them different versions of color and dailies. But CDLs in terms of this node tree is not something you're going to want to execute. Those two are completely separate things.
Yeah.
Oh, understood. So by the time you're grading, then CDL is not relevant anymore. So you're just doing the or I guess you're not just generating. If it is relevant, then you're just using them as they are.
Correct.
Right. So on some projects, and these are generally going to be big movies, like a big budget movie, you're going to get CDLs from on set, and sometimes you're going to use them.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not. It depends on a lot of different things.
You import them and then you see what they do, and then you can decide whether you want to keep it or you do it yourself.
Like if I'm working on a big studio movie, I'm always going to have the CDLs. I might not use them, but they're going to be on my node tree. I'm going to have them because sometimes they're going to be like, we like what we did. And I don't have to recreate it. It's there. Like, I'm like, this tracks. Like, this is what they did on set. They like the way it looked. I don't have to reassess or rebuild anything. It's just I start with that. And maybe the scene's not working or I don't like the CDL and I throw it away. But I'm going to have it available.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
If I could just share one thing with you guys. If you were in the ACEs looking for like an IGT or a color space, if you start typing any letter, it will take you to that letter. So I don't know. When I found that out, I was really happy because it's annoying to look for the names every time.
Okay, that's a tip for us, right? Very good, very good. Then a question from Stefan. Alastor, was so much fun. Oh, there's just a comment. Anorinda, a basic question. What's your preferred working color space or grading color space, probably? Do you have a preferred?
No.
No.
I use ACES more than I have. I mean, the last time Dado and I talked, I kind of had my own working space. I've moved away from that on a lot of projects because I find the tools now are so much better when they're working in a known working color space that I just learned to navigate them better. But I'd say I'm almost like, if I'm using color management, which I don't always, sometimes it's brute force or just build my own thing. Yeah. Generally more on short format. On studio features or even indie features, I tend to work in a known space because more for archival and future proofing a project. But on short format, I generally don't use color management that often because I just want to just completely just work display referred. But I like ACES a lot, but I'm also using Davinci Wide Gamut more. My biggest issue with ACES sometimes is building looks that translate for dailies. If you're not doing a full ACES pipeline, sometimes things get a little tricky for dailies. Mm-hmm. So I tailor everything specifically. There's no rules. I'd say right now it's probably like 30% ACES, 30% Davinci Wide Gamut, and then 30% everything else. Mm-hmm. Whatever I feel like. Yeah.
We have to finish. We're running out of time. So what I want to let you know as well, if you have some friends and people who you think would benefit from having the same node tree, in your invites, there is a possibility for you. Sorry, in your confirmations for Luma, there is a button where you can click, hey, invite a friend. You can invite your friends so that they can also benefit from this presentation and this node tree. And for all of you master students, so just to let you know, we have also a class with Alastor next week. That one's going to be closed only to the students, I'm afraid, but also we're going to get all the people who are part of our research group as well to be able to attend that one. So that's coming on next week. I want to thank, first of all, Alastor. Can we all please kind of show some gratitude and give him a round of applause, please? Thank you. Woo! Louis, if you want to just maybe, Alastor, if you want to just stop quickly, just sharing so that we see everybody,
How do I do this
I'll do
here?
this for you.
Share, boom.
There we go. And we just remove.
Did it turn off? Yeah, there you go.
It is. And I want to see everybody. Now, let's give him a round of applause one more time. Alastor, thank you for making history with us.
History? Oh my God, it's so dramatic.
It has never happened in the history of Hollywood that the colorist who graded, the best picture has gone and said, look, guys, this is how I did it. It never happened. There's always this kind of veil of secrecy and how these things are done and all of this. I love it.
This no tree is not going to make anybody grade a movie the way I grade it. It's not going to happen.
Alastor, my takeaway is this. I have the post filter, which I have never used before. I thank you so much for that. And key the keyer. I love that. I mean, just these two things for me are like a gold nuggets. And I really love. I think I'm going to start using a little bit more pre-base, grading. I used to use it only on shows that needed it, but I'm going to really consider using more like a Windows pre-base. I like that idea. I like that. I mean, it's and I really love also this kind of stacking them horizontally. I never used it, and I love it as well. I mean, look, I definitely have taken so much from you today. I really have to tell you, and I love because I never stop learning. Myself. And
I'm always learning. I mean, honestly, my hope is that someone takes this note tree and build a better version of it. That I'm like, holy shit, that's incredible! Like, I'm going to start using that. Like. Information is power, right? And like, I'm happy to share it because I'm already on the next thing. Like, I don't this node tree, I've been working on it for years. It's always evolving, and I modify this node tree for every project. It's not the same. I will make adjustments, maybe a few more here, a few more there, maybe another. Like, sometimes I'll take by the way, if you build a look that's like 15, 20 nodes, put it in a compound node and put it in there. Don't you can, this is a template. Think of this node tree as a template, and every project, don't be afraid to modify it. Take, maybe your computer can't handle all these nodes. Get rid of some of them. It's designed to be concatenated. You can pull nodes out and make it smaller, but it'll still work the same way. So just have fun. Play with it. Surprise me.
Famous last words. Have fun, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Alastor, for amazing presentation. It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure,
all of us. And guys, don't you love surprises like this? Come on. Huh?
Go watch Anora. If you haven't seen it. It's a beautiful film. Beautiful film.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a great weekend, everybody. I see you all next week again. And then same place, same time. See you all, Color Love streamers. Thank you. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, Alastor. Thank you. Bye. 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 Bye.